Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Just want to make sure that we got it set up and gave everybody adequate time to log in and start today's webinar. Today we are going to be discussing a solution for Office 365 backup. Special thanks to the Miller Group for arranging everything here today. My name is Andrew Negus. I am the Channel Sales Manager for Datto on the SaaS protection or Office 365 backup side of the house. And just for a quick note of reference for this particular presentation, we are going to be discussing our solution for Office 365 backup. Internally, we sometimes refer to this as SaaS protection. So if you hear myself or my principal sales engineer, Ryan, mention the term SaaS protection, please note that we are referencing Office 365 backup. We'll do our best to keep it at O365 backup. Today, we're fortunate enough to be joined, as I mentioned, by my sales engineer, Ryan Block, who will be walking through a technical demonstration of our platform later on in this presentation. And also being joined today from the Miller Group with Lauren Verhoff, who is the Chief Marketing Officer, as well as Joe Svoboda, who is the CEO. And I'd like to turn things over to Joe before I begin things to say a few opening remarks.
Thanks, Andrew. I just wanted to also thank everybody for their time this afternoon and apologize for the getting started a little late here. The Miller Group has been a proud partner with Datto for the last 3 years or so. Some of you on the call may already be familiar with Datto, as they also have a backup and recovery solution for servers that we use out at some of our clients. This is their cloud version, somewhat, to be able to protect your Office 365 data. We're hoping that this is going to help raise some awareness of some of the potential pitfalls that can happen with your emails and your data with Office 365, and then how we can also help you protect that data. So hopefully you'll find this informational. I'll hand it back over to Andrew.
Wonderful, thank you, Joe. And exactly. So the Office 365 backup solution that Datto has is really there to kind of give you peace of mind. It is pure data protection in the cloud. And what I plan on doing is giving you kind of a brief overview of sort of the state of the industry right now in regards to Office 365, some of the pitfalls that are out there and the reasons that it's critical to have a backup solution out there for your cloud data in Office 365, and then give you a quick run through of what the product actually does, what it's capable of, how we perform the backups, and what this ultimately means for you. At the end, we will address any questions. So we'll give you the ability to go ahead and type any questions into the chat functionality of this Zoom presentation, and we'd be happy to address those at the end for you. So it wasn't too long ago that we talk about SaaS applications becoming kind of the new standard for small businesses, but we're seeing MSPs kind of adopting the cloud at a rapid rate. We reached a key junction point in the market, and Microsoft has really been getting aggressive about pushing people to the cloud, and in many ways really forcing people to do so. Now, the good news is for all of you, you have a lot to gain from moving to Office 365. In fact, we actually know that businesses that take advantage of productivity enhancing cloud services grow at a 20% faster rate than their counterparts that don't. So moving to the cloud actually improves efficiencies in business processes. It gives end users more of an ability to innovate, allows teams to collaborate across the organization, and ultimately run your business more effectively. And this is where the market is moving. So we know that it can be a scary change, but it's not something to shy away from. It's something that all end users and MSPs alike should embrace. Now, while the cloud does improve efficiencies, there's also kind of introduces a certain amount of risks to businesses. So SaaS data, like the data that lives on computers or laptops or mobile devices, is still subject to human error. I'm sorry, I'm kind of experiencing an issue there. it does is still subject to human error, malicious deletion, misconfigured workflows, and even ransomware. And when these problems come up, you need a service and a solution that you can really depend on. Now, a recent study that we conducted found that 1 in 3 companies have experienced data loss in SaaS applications. And while this figure alone is kind of scary, it gets compounded when you realize that, believe it or not, vendors such as Microsoft, they don't necessarily fully protect the user data. These vendors work off of what would be considered the shared responsibility model. So Microsoft and Google, they basically are responsible for the availability in their services. And what that means is that's where the responsibilities end. They're protecting their infrastructure. They're making sure that their services are accessible and available for users. The Microsoft SLA is actually clearly state that they're responsible for the security of their cloud, and that the tenant or company and users provides the security in their cloud. When it comes to companies' data that's been created by the end users, the companies or you guys are on the hook for protecting that data themselves. So ultimately, what we do know is that Microsoft will purge all deleted data after 90 days in the trash. So that means deprovisioned user data, that gets deleted. Anything that maybe gets thrown out, whether it be an email, a small file, is 90 days before it's being purged. So the SaaS application access is not necessarily guaranteed also when there are app outages, which happen more often than you think. Now, even though Microsoft is, 99.99% uptime from a cloud perspective, that 0.1% still leaves a vulnerability. And the big thing is Microsoft can't determine when a document is deleted or whether it was done so intentionally or if it was accidental or malicious deletion. Basically, when an item is deleted, and that can be anything from a Word doc, an email, an entire folder, it's kept in the trash or recycle bin for a period of time, and then it's actually purged from the system. So if that's employees leaving the company and maybe their license is deactivated, the data is also purged from the system, which then leaves you exposed. How do we get that data? Do we have the ability to go ahead and transfer it to another customer? It means using things like Microsoft End User Support, which has costs that incur to creating tickets. It can create a big headache for not only you, but your managed service provider. So where does that leave you guys? Well, Microsoft's own recommendation is using a third party of independent backup for this. Unfortunately, there's one of 3 roads that people go. So approximately 37 or just under 40% of companies never actually take action, and they never actually do anything to engage anything. You guys are ahead of the curve on that. Obviously, being on this webinar and having people such as the Miller Group to help you guys and guide you along the way, you've taken an initial step, which is great. There is an option of working with limited or native recovery features. The issues that run into that is lack of automation, time consumption, and ultimately a lack of accountability. And then lastly is really being able to kind of gain control using a third-party solution, and that's where Datto comes into play. Datto offers a simple, secure, scalable Office 365 backup solution that can work directly with the other solutions that you have and allow you to go ahead and safely protect your data in the cloud. And so with that, what I'd like to do is turn things over to Ryan Block to be able to go ahead and walk you through the platform in regards to what the product looks like, what sort of backups that it provides, and how it actually works to be able to safely back up your data in the cloud.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Ryan Block, and today I will be taking you through the Datto Office 365 backup solution. So before I get too far into any of the functionality or anything like that, I want to jump over to this users tab right here and just talk briefly about how we're going to get users pulled into the system and set up. So as far as adding users, we've got a few different ways that we can do this. The first is going to be manually one by one. You can search for a name or email. Your Active Directory will load up below. Obviously, that can get a little bit manual, but lets you get very granular as far as selecting who you want to have pulled in. Moving on down here, we've got a CSV list upload. So you can grab a CSV file of your entire Active Directory fairly easily from the Microsoft admin console. And you can upload it here, and that will begin pulling in new users as well. However, what we find most of our customers actually utilize is going to be this auto add functionality up here. What auto add does is essentially when you hit enable, takes a look into your Active Directory and automatically begins pulling in the users from within there. Additionally, the auto add feature kind of works towards our hands-off, set it and forget it kind of mentality that we're going for with the tool. Because with auto add enabled, every time you provision a new employee or add a new user to your Microsoft domain, we'll actually recognize that addition and automatically pull them in as well. So every time you provision a new user and get them all set up with a Microsoft account, you don't have to worry about, oh, did I add them to the backup? One last thing I want to talk about on this page here is going to be this shared and resource mailbox section. So we do back up shared and resource mailboxes. They can be added here either one by one. You can upload a CSV list to grab those mailboxes as well. Or if you do enable auto add, it will automatically pick up those shared and resource mailboxes and pull them in. So really just kind of a good way to store data long-term within Office 365 there. So moving on along here, I'm going to jump over to the status or dashboard page. This is the drop page when you dive into the platform, and you can see a lot of information about your account here, right? So across each service, you can see data like total amount of data, any backups that are in progress, the last backup date, as well as accounts not backed up within the last 24 hours. So the Office 365 backup solution is kind of just meant to do its thing in the background, right? It's an insurance policy. Hopefully you never have to use it to recover from, large amounts of data loss, ransomware, whatever it may be. However, we keep this page here so that if you ever want to just come in, make sure everything's up to par and running smoothly, you can get all of this information from one page. So from here, you can dive into one of the specific services by clicking on one of the headers here, or on the top bar tab, you can click, and I'll start on OneDrive and jump right in. So before I dive further into OneDrive here, I do like to mention right off the bat that as I go through the platform here, everything you're going to notice that everything is extremely uniform. So the bells and whistles, the UI, the functionality, it's all going to be there across OneDrive, Exchange, and SharePoint, and it's going to look and feel exactly the same. So once you jump into a service, you're presented with this user lookup page here. You can sort using the sortable columns, or you can search for a specific user by searching a name or email, and all of the relevant accounts will pop up. To jump into a specific user, you just click on their name right there, and we're presented with, in this case, what Joseph Oak's OneDrive looked like at the time of our last backup here. So here within Joseph Oak's OneDrive environment, one thing I like to point out right off the bat is that we will maintain all folder structure and hierarchy, and that's actually going to be both within our backups and our restores. So I can jump into one of these Backupify restore folders here, and this is how we're going to push the data back into your live environment. But I can follow the file tree up top here all the way down to the individual file that we were trying to restore. So now that we know a little bit more about what we're looking at, let's run through a pretty typical use case that we see all the time: accidental or malicious deletion. So Joseph Oakes comes up and says, hey, I'm missing some documents, some files from my OneDrive environment. It was there about a week ago, but I can't find it now. Can you get it back for me? With the Office 365 backup solution, you can navigate to the snapshot feature right here, where you'll have access to previous points in time that we have taken backups of. You can jump back to about a week ago, because that's when Joseph Oakes said he thought he had the files in his environment, and load up one of those snapshots to get a live look at what the environment looked like at the time of that backup. From there, if I know where the file is living, I can just jump right in, select the files that I'm looking to restore, and then just with a couple easy clicks, restore and restore again, and it will actually push all of this data back into Joseph Oakes' live OneDrive environment, again, under one of these Backupify restore folders with all the folder structure and hierarchy built out underneath. So from here, we have this, search account button. So often, people might not be the most tech savvy, not know exactly where their data was living, whether they owned it, it was shared with them, whatever it may be. So we give you the ability to run this quick metadata-based search within an account here. So if I was looking for a document with the keyword critical within Joseph Oak's OneDrive environment, I can run that search and you can see it will actually pull up the document that I was looking for. From there, the restore process is going to look and feel exactly the same. Just click restore, select the user that you're trying to send it to, in this case, back to Joseph Oak's, and just restore again to push that data back. In addition to the restore functionality, we do give you the ability to export data down locally. So we typically see this used, in most cases for legal and litigation purposes. Maybe the lawyers want to get their hands on something physical, but also, for those rare cases where Microsoft servers are inaccessible, maybe you've got a meeting or a presentation, you can actually come in to the Office 365 backup tool, select whatever you need, and then export that data down locally. It will show up in this exports tab over here, where you'll then have 30 days to download it, and then you can get on with your day. So the last button I want to talk about up here is going to be this Backup Now button. This will allow you to force an on-demand backup at any time you would like. We typically see this used in termination cases, right? So maybe you've got a disgruntled employee who's leaving the organization. You don't want, or he's going out on bad terms. You're a little bit worried that he's going to go on a little deletion spree on his way out. Before you go and break the news to him, you can come in, click Backup Now to grab that one last clean copy of all of his data before he heads out. I do like to mention that this does not affect your daily backups. So you'll be receiving 3 daily backups every single day, and that's across every single user and every service for those users. But when you hit the Backup Now button, you'll just have a 4th, a 5th, a 6th point, etc. to choose from on that day. So you have that one last clean copy if you need it. So one thing I want to talk about while we're on the topic of employees leaving the organization is going to be end user lifecycle management. So extremely big use case for the Office 365 backup tool. And essentially what it will allow you to do is, let's say Joseph Oakes again is leaving the or has left the organization rather, as long as they've completed at least one backup within our solution over here. Once they leave, you'll have the ability to just remove that Microsoft account and we'll still maintain all of the data over here in the Office 365 backup. We'll recognize the change to your Active Directory, that account is no longer active, and we'll change their status within the Office 365 backup solution to an archived account. An archived account will still have all of the same functionality that you've seen so far. You'll have the ability to, access those previous snapshots, search across the account for data, as well as restore and export. The only difference is that as far as restoration, we can't restore data to a user that is no longer active on Office 365. So what we give you the ability to do is actually push this data to a different user. So let's say Monet is coming in to be Joseph Oakes' replacement. She needs access to a couple critical documents, or in this case, an entire snapshot of Joseph Oakes' Office 365 or OneDrive, environment here. And I can select Monet and just click restore, and it will push all of that data that I'm trying to send directly to Monet's live environment. It will show up again as one of those Backupify restore folders that we saw earlier. So really powerful tool there, the ability to manage data across multiple users, as well as no longer have to maintain those Office 365 licenses. So the last thing I want to talk about here within OneDrive before we move on to Exchange and SharePoint is going to be that big bad guy in the room, right? Ransomware. So Something we've been seeing more and more over the last few years. It's unfortunate, but it's happening. Ransomware attacks attacking literally pretty much anyone. A lot of people don't actually recognize that ransomware and malware can affect your cloud environment, however. So essentially, someone clicks on a link on their local machine that they weren't supposed to. It can then encrypt or lock everything on that machine. But then if you're leveraging a sync client, anything that's synced up to the cloud when that sync happens will then become encrypted in the Office 365 environment as well. And once it's encrypted in the cloud, you're SOL, right? There's not a lot you can do to get that data back with Microsoft's native tools. However, with the Office 365 backup solution here, you'll have the ability to just leverage the snapshot feature that we saw earlier, jump back to a time before the encryption event. Normally, that's just going to be, a couple hours, maybe a few days. Load up that snapshot, and then once you've gone ahead and cleaned up your live environment, you have the ability to just come into the backup, the clean snapshot, select the files, folders that you need. Again, you can get very granular with it, whether it be the entire snapshot or just the selected items, and you can select folders or individual files. And then you push that data right back to the live environment, again, once it's been cleaned up. And just like that, you've got your data back. You can get back on with your day. No more dealing with ransomware, hackers, anything like that. So that's mostly what I have here for OneDrive. I'm going to push on into Exchange. So right off the bat, you'll notice again that it's going to look very similar to the lookup page that we saw in OneDrive. You can still use the sortable columns here, as well as search for a specific user to pull them up. You can click on their account to jump right in, and this is a live look at Joseph Oakes's Exchange environment in this case at the time of our last backup. So again, you can see it looks a lot of the same here. So you've still got the snapshot feature to jump back to those previous points of time. Still have the ability to search across the account. Again, it is a metadata-based search, so just looking at the sender, the receiver, as well as the subject line. And then the restore and export functionalities are going to work the exact same way as well. So you can restore this data, send it to whichever user you would like, or export the data down locally. And then finally, run those manual backups, just in case you've got a disgruntled employee leaving the organization or something like that. A couple things within Exchange here that I did not talk about within OneDrive, although it is a functionality, is going to be this search button up here at the top. This will allow you to actually search across your entire Exchange environment. So if I was looking again for that keyword HubSpot, I can run that search, except instead of just pulling up data from one user, you can see it pulled up data from Joseph Oakes and Lawrence as well. Additionally, I can narrow this search down a little bit more if I would like. So just looking for a keyword within specific users' Exchange environment, I can do that as well. And then once I've found the data that I'm looking for, just select the files and restore or export that data. Other than that, everything within Exchange is gonna be exactly the same. And I don't wanna get too redundant with you guys, but again, here you can see the Backupify restore folders. All of that folder structure and hierarchy will be maintained within the restores here. And yeah, I don't wanna get too redundant with you guys. If you have specific questions, use cases about Exchange, please feel free to drop them in the questions of those But moving on to SharePoint here, again, it's going to look very similar. The main difference with SharePoint here is it's going to be a site lookup as opposed to a user lookup. But the sortable columns and the search bar all still work in the same way. And you can click on one to just jump right in. This backslash with nothing after it is going to be your primary site collection. And as I jump in here, I just kind of want to talk about what Microsoft does natively to protect your Office 365 environment. or excuse me, to protect your SharePoint environment. Microsoft actually does a pretty good job protecting those top level site and site collections. You have to be an admin to the site. You have to go through multiple pages to delete it. And once it does get deleted, you still have 90 days to recover it from the recycling bin, the entire site collection, before it goes away. Where Microsoft doesn't do as great of a job protecting you is going to be actually where most of the users are doing their interactions. And that's going to be on the content level. So that's really where we decided to focus our efforts as far as backup. So what we're going to back up within SharePoint here are going to be the document libraries, the site assets, the site templates, site lists, site pages, and then anything in the OneNote folder. So again, really focusing on grabbing all of that business critical content that we have access to. Other than that, here within SharePoint, it should look pretty familiar. We've got the Snapshot Tool still, the ability to search across an individual account, as well as restore and export data. And then the Backup Now functionality, which actually is a pretty cool use case here in SharePoint. Maybe you were pushing a change to a new site. You're a little bit worried that something might become corrupted or go wrong, whatever it may be. Before you go and push that change, you can come in and back that site up. So you've got the clean copy of the site. So when you do push it, just in case something goes wrong, you can always restore it back to how it was. Other than that, here, you can still see these Backupify restore folders, folder structure maintained below. And again, don't want to get too redundant. It's a lot of the same here. You've still got the search functionality across, an entire site. But if you do have specific questions about SharePoint, please, again, feel free to drop them in the questions and we'll get to them shortly. So the last thing I want to talk about is going to be this settings tab over here. So this will allow you to add multiple administrators, and I'll run through these really quick. So you do have the ability to add multiple administrators. You just click Add Admin right here, and everything will be, you can enter all the information, set a temporary password that they can change later. Additionally, in the settings tab, you've got this some reporting in addition to what we have on the status page. So again, that status page is kind of your one-stop shop to get a lot of visibility into what's going on in your account. But we do have this system audit report and account activity log. The system audit report is just a log of all backups, restores, and exports that have run. If any of them fail for whatever reason, it'll have a failure reason that you can send on to support if you would like. And then the account activity log, which will just be a log of all actions taken by admins within your account. And so you always have full visibility into kind of what's going on. There's no way to edit these logs or anything, so you'll always know who's doing what. The last setting is going to be under this advanced settings tab over here. This will allow you to set your own custom retention policy. So we are an unlimited storage as well as indefinite retention platform by default. However, if you do have custom retention policies that you need to meet internally, you can set that here. So that's really all I have for the functionality today. I'm going to send it back over to Andrew and we will start getting through some of your guys' questions if you have any.
Hey, Andrew, before you get started, thanks, Ryan. This is Joe again. For the majority of our clients, you guys are used to us doing restores for you, for your backups. This is really no different. We are all certified in Datto here, and we would be the ones doing the background, all the information that Ryan was showing us. That's what the techs here would be doing to restore your data. It is your data, though, and with it being your data, by default, we are creating you admin access to access your own data, and you have the ability to do all of this without the Miller Group. So it's good to at least have an idea of how easy the platform is to use if you should need to use it. a couple of cases of how we have used this already in the past. Unfortunately, one of them involves myself. I reset my cell phone. And for those that have Office 365, whatever is on your phone is synced with your Outlook on your computer and what's available online on your webmail as well. I don't know what I was doing on my phone, but at one moment, this a couple months ago, I looked down and the earliest email that I had in my inbox was from January 31st of 2017. And my inbox is used kind of like my to-do box. So anything that I still have inside my inbox is something that I still need to address. Well, I had probably about 100 emails in there that were no longer there. Well, I jump onto my computer, open up my Outlook, and they're no longer there either. Check out my deleted items, my recycle bin, they're not there. At that point, I really stopped worrying about it. I could have probably dove into it to try to find out what I did, where they went, but I knew I had the solution covering me. Logged into the portal, selected my mailbox, and I even went as far as to just dump my whole mailbox out. And like you said, it creates a brand new folder in my inbox structure called Backupify with the date of my restore. And then within there, I had all my folders, all my email folders, and all those emails that I was able just to drag the ones out back to my inbox that I needed. Quick and easy and simple. I don't even know what I did to mess it up to begin with, but I didn't care. I was able to get my data back. And that process took literally like 10 minutes. Another case that we just had recently where this would have came in handy, but they did not have it. We had a client that let an employee go. They give us a call, unfortunately, after the fact, and want us to, forward his email to somebody else, blah, blah, blah. We took a look at the person's mailbox, and there was no email in this mailbox. This user that they let go was an employee for a couple years. Of course, they're going to have some data in there, but this person deleted all that data on their way out, probably trying to hide something. With Microsoft's native tools, we were able to recover that data. Now, this is the point where it kind of sucks. It took me the better part of 5 days to go ahead and go through their process of gathering up about 16 gig worth of data that was gone. And then I was able to provide them in basically a PST file, but we had to transfer that file over to the client. Long story short, the process took a better part of 5 days. If they would have had the solution in place, we could have had all that data back instantaneous, back to the mailbox that the person that deleted it, or just redirected it to somebody else's mailbox. It's just quick and easy. We like this product because just like the Datto server appliances that we have at some of your locations, it really does give us that peace of mind that no matter what happens on your network to your data, we can get you back in full really quick. And that makes our lives easier, which should also then allow you to have a little peace of mind as well. The other reason why this is becoming more and more important, in some of our webinar emails that we sent out leading up to this, there was a video, and in this video, a user demonstrates how that they can send a phishing type email to your employees, that by clicking on the link, it allows them to the user then logs into their Office 365 account, which looks normal and standard. And then another pop-up box pops up after that, asking them if they will allow this application permission to their Office 365. One box, that's all they have to do, say yes. After that, then the bad guy's got the ability to run a script, and it encrypts all your email. So you're looking at your inbox, you have all your data there, and all of a sudden it just starts encrypting, and you can't get that data back. They, of course, want money for that. That's something that has been proven that can be done. We have not heard about that out in the wild just as yet, but it's going to come, just like the ransomware on your local computers that I'm sure some of you have experienced in the past. That's coming to your mailbox, and that's scary. Just think about losing all your contacts, all your calendar events, all your email, having that all be encrypted. Let alone just the normal, oh my God, I think I deleted a folder and I don't know where it went. I need that back. So this is a relatively low cost solution to give you that same peace of mind that we are doing for your servers and backing that data up. And that's why we're we're attempting to reach out to everyone that is using Office 365 and making them aware of some of the dangers and then what we can do to to help you out there.
Right. That's awesome, Joe. And you know, I always add to this, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned some of the instances and examples. I mean, you know, people are certainly the most important asset for any company. But in this day and age where there is things like crypto locker and ransomware, employees can also be the most dangerous asset for any organization. And, you know, I know myself living and breathing day to day in my email, my calendar, utilizing my contacts. If any of that was frozen, lost, or anything, I would be crippled. And if you think about that organization wide, it could be catastrophic. So a few things to sort of take away at the end of this. You know, if you picked up anything from today's webinar, you know, ultimately it is that, you know, even the cloud does need backup. You know, and that Office 365 backup from Datto really provides you that insurance policy for those critical applications that you know that we all use on a day-to-day basis, whether we are in our office or we're mobile, those being kind of your email, your calendar, your contacts, your shared files. And lastly, you know, most importantly, you know, we're here to help. Obviously, I mean, you guys have a great partner in the Miller Group, and we are an extension of that for you as well. So it is my job and Ryan's to make sure that people are educated on the needs to have this backup, any you know, details in terms of what it incorporates and things like that. We're here with you guys every step of the way. And apparently Ryan must have done a decent job because I'm looking at the questions panel and I don't see any open questions. So either we covered everything completely or nobody listened to us. I'm not sure. It's one of the two, and understandable. I mean, it's something where I will say this too. If you have any questions as it pertains to the platform, more examples, you're interested in seeing more collateral, any type of information, we're happy to answer any questions offline, make any type of private meetings, things like that. That is something that you know, is a service that is available for all of our potential customers and partners as well. So something we can certainly help you out with as the days go.
Great, Andrew. And I would like to, for the rest of my clients on the phone here, we'll be following up with an email after the fact to see if you guys do have any questions or if you would like to discuss this a little bit further, including any pricing that you may want to know. Like I said earlier, it is a relatively inexpensive solution compared to some of the other type solutions that are out there. And especially when you consider how much data that you do have out there and how important this data is for a lot of people. Email is still one of the main modes of communication. And if you are to lose your email, just what kind of bind does that put you into? So this does allow you to have that peace of mind.
Excellent. Well, with that, I would say that, you know, thank you so much. I'd like to thank you, Joe, and Lauren for asking us to join this and kind of going off on this webinar. And I would also like to thank all of those that are in attendance for giving us time out of your valuable day to discuss, you know, this critical topic. And again, if you have any further questions beyond that, please don't hesitate in reaching out to any of us.
All right, thanks everyone.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, guys.